We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat. Period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner, Mark Wages. We've got a fun-filled evening here, crew. I think we're going to dig this one. You know, I've been pretty open with the boat, with all of you about the things that I struggle with, right? You know, I've got a lot of sobriety under my belt. I've been doing pretty well. Yesterday, I didn't bring this up on yesterday's program, but yesterday was the anniversary of me walking out of prison. October 21st is the day that I started the freedom ride, so to speak. And so there's a lot, you know, I've come a long way. There's a lot that's going on that's just fantastic. But what I struggle with is anger. And I don't mean I walk around wanting to hurt people or, you know, having, you know, even fantasies, boy, I'd like to slap that guy around, like that kind of thing. And that is very pervasive. The more that I study this, the more that I realize that a lot of people do that all day. There are people, honestly, who walk around all day thinking, I would love to just go up and hit that guy in the head with a chair. Now, they never act on it, but, you know, but that's not where I'm at. Where I'm at is just, it's usually me getting angry at things more than people. And I usually put the anger back on me. However, if you happen to be in the room, what I do is just make you wildly uncomfortable, right? It's not fun standing next to somebody that's having a meltdown. You know, it really isn't. Act on it. So I've been trying to deep dive to figure out what the hell's wrong with me, right? Because there shouldn't be this anger. And the crazy thing is, when I was locked up, I sort of got into this Zen mode, you know, and I had a lot of time on my hands. I spent a lot of time reading, a lot of time meditating. I did a ton of yoga, right? There was a lot more time during the day for me to concentrate on other things, but nothing could set me off. And I think when I got out, it was the same way. And it's just been a fairly recent development. So tonight is really a lot about me, but we're going to walk you through it because I have a feeling that everybody here can relate to this in one way or another, right? When you start thinking about emotions, they're basically driving the car that is you, right? Emotions are behind the wheel. That's not something that makes most of us happy. Because truthfully, we wish that, you know, thinking or action or something like that was actually driving, right? You know, the cerebral part of our brain. That's what, but it's not. It's not in the driver's seat. It's not even in the car, right? Bound and gagged and probably in the trunk. We are emotional creatures, and emotions rule absolutely everything about what we do, how we do it. And the sad thing, I was just talking to my bobbleheaded partner before we went live. And, you know, there was a study done a while back and 7,000 people were asked a question that you all can work on in your head real quick as I'm talking to you. But if I said, write down on a piece of paper every emotion that you can think of that you experience, right? It's part of your, experience. Not, don't list me 16 emotions because, okay, well, there's that one and that one and that one. What emotions do you actually feel? Out of 7,000 people who were asked this question, what do you think the average number that people could put down for emotions? How about 3? That's it. And you're not going to be shocked. Happy, sad, and mad were the 3 that people would put down the most. Well, the scary thing about that is that happy really isn't necessarily an emotion, right? It's a byproduct of some other things. But if you can't identify where you're at, nothing good is going to happen. And this is where I've been at, people. Like, I know I get angry, but very much like our drug addiction, right? I didn't become a heroin addict because I wanted to do heroin. I became a heroin addict because there was an underlying thing in my life that made me really uncomfortable in my own skin. And the only thing that seemed to take that away was opiates, right? And that's been something that, took 35 years of my life to figure out what that thing was. And, since then, life has gotten a whole lot better. The crazy thing is, as I start deep diving into the brain, the anger thing is the exact same way, right? Anger is a secondary emotion. It's not a primary emotion, with the exception of getting righteously indignant, right? Somebody does something to your kid, somebody comes and threatens your household, right? That's righteous indignation. That's the kind of anger that is absolutely healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. Normal people have it. It's anger that doesn't make sense, the secondary emotion, right? Over the top anger. Like, my phone rings and I yell, son of a, right? Because I got to walk across the room to pick it up. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And then I realize what I did, right? And I'll go, you know what, Tommy, you're worthless. You are such a piece. And I will just start berating myself because of what I've done. And all of that, believe it or not, starts to spiral back on itself pretty viciously. You can actually affect the hell out of yourself with the negative thoughts, right? If you've been on the boat for any length of time, we call them ants, right? Those are automatic negative thoughts, and they're the enemy of anybody in recovery. However, they're also the enemy of anybody and anything, right? If you're someone that doesn't have a drug problem and you're stopping in just to see what we're doing on the lifeboat, this is not unique to people who do drugs. It is a bigger threat to those of us who had a drug or alcohol problem, because it is very easy to go back to. One of the things that I kept coming across again and again and again in all of the literature was, nobody seems to dispute the fact that there is nothing a human being will not do to get rid of pain. Doesn't matter what kind of pain it is. But if there is pain, we will hop through hoops. We will do anything within our power, any hurdle, whatever, to make that pain go away. And there are, obviously there are good ways to work on that. And then there are the ways I did, and the way that a lot of you did. The study on emotions and what it does to, air quotes, normal folks is pretty fascinating. The first emotion, when they start to list the primaries, right? The first emotion that they call danger, right? That has bells going off, and this is a frightening emotion, is loneliness, right? And loneliness comes in a crap load of different varieties. As a heroin addict, I was lonely in a room full of 70 because there was no real connection. And by the time I'm done talking today, you're probably going to realize that there are people in our lives who we have relationships with, and there is no connection there. None. It's a sad thing to say, and it's a realization that's not a lot of fun, but it is a stone cold fact. The biggest driver of that is our inability to relate to people, because we just don't know ourselves. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. But I was talking to my bobbleheaded partner before we got rolling, and I said, we were talking about the phrase, you walk a mile in somebody's shoes, right? Before you criticize somebody, before you do anything, or, maybe you're not feeling bad enough for somebody, so someone will inevitably say, yeah, well, you should walk a mile in their shoes. This is the dumbest thing, honestly, people, absolutely ridiculous. And the reason is we don't have a point of reference. Like myself and my partner, we're both addicted to opiates, right? We both got off in the same way. We both are now, running a sobriety channel together. You would think we're really on the same. I should be able to walk a mile in his shoes easily, right? No, no chance, because his points of reference are so much different than mine. I spent how much time locked up, right? And that's going to skew everything in my life. He's had some major surgeries and some very serious hurdles to overcome in health. That's going to skew his in another direction. What you need to do is walk a mile in your own damn shoes, right? Honestly, if you take and look at anything else that has anything to do with the human body, as humans, if you start feeling like you're getting out of shape, we'll work out, right? We brush our teeth before we go to bed every night, right? We wash ourselves, we take showers. And believe it or not, people, since the advent of all of that neat stuff, life expectancy went up by 50%. 50%. I think it would be fascinating to see what would happen to our life expectancy if we started taking care of our mind the same way we started taking care of our body. Loneliness. Science says that chronic loneliness will knock about 14% off your life expectancy. That's not a few days, people, right? Think about somebody who's living, perfect case scenario, 100 years, knock 14 years off of it. The things that chronic loneliness can cause within the body really are frightening, and this is one of those things that very often we confuse loneliness with a whole host of other emotions. And you say, oh, well, it should be pretty obvious. Like if you're lonely and there's nobody there, right? That one should jump out at you. Shouldn't be too difficult an emotion. The problem, people, is that we don't look at our emotions ever, right? The secondary emotion will get running wild, and that's the one that we'll deal with. So we're going to use me as a case study because it would be really uncomfortable to do it to anybody else. So I've been raging, right? And I've shared it on the boat, and I talked a lot to Mark about it, and to a lot of other people who I'm really close with. I just can't seem to neck this in. And I couldn't find any kind of an underlying thing, right? That honestly, it hadn't occurred to me that there was an underlying thing. And, people, I have been open with everybody, my health trouble, my cerebral infarction, some of the things that I've had that take place with the dome. I've been forgetting things, right? I forget, I'm great with things from the past, but where I put my keys, right? Where I set my phone down, and I know everyone's going, oh, I do that all the time. I've been having problems.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's different
Yeah.
for you. It really
Well,
is.
I've been having problems with the right side of my body. So I was on the phone talking to Linda, oddly enough, and I said, I'm going to take a whirlpool because we got a whirlpool bath here, and putting that on the leg will probably help out. I'm going to throw some Epsom salts in there. And when I got upstairs to the bathroom, I realized that I took that out about 8 years ago and built a walk-in shower in its place. And I built it. I didn't have somebody do it. So I'm the one that tore that thing out. And as I was downstairs, I was 100% convinced that that thing was up there. So these kind of little things, from the brain injury tend to scare me a little bit. But instead of dealing with them, right, I bury him. And then I go from a guy who was the most laid back cat in the entire world, who you could not anger. And now anytime something comes up, I rage. And if it has anything to do with me losing my memory or me, breaking down, as I'm getting older and, the knee starts going or anything else, I get really, really angry. So the secondary emotion is anger, right? Pretty obvious. But the emotion is fear.
Yes.
And this is the kind of thing that is happening to everybody every day. And if you had asked me a week ago, or if you had said to me, you know why you're cursing when you can't find your keys? Because you're scared. I would have said, okay. Right. But when we start looking at our emotional landscape and truthfully trying to diagnose ourselves, I don't mean like a doctor, right? I just mean start looking at what's going on in your life. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. And at the end of the day, journal. I know I get so much pushback from this. It's insane. It's not just that people say, well, I don't want to do it. There are people who want to drop me an email telling me why they're not going to do it. Right. I'm not doing that. I haven't written anything in a book since I got out of high school. Well, how's that been working out? Right. Has that been working out for you? Because it didn't work out for me. Uh, if you write stuff down, right? I was able to go back to the book and I started looking at stuff, and I've been having a lot of dreams, and the dreams, they're not obvious, but when you look at six of them in a row, you'll find that a lot of them have to do with aging. They have to do with hospitals, right? This is the underlying fear that I'm breaking down, and I'm breaking down in a pretty severe way. So this is, now that I have diagnosed, it doesn't mean life is perfect, but I sure as hell understand what's going on with me. And one of the other things that we talk about all the time on the boat is if you take something like that and you leave it in the dark, right? It festers, it gets nasty, right? The only way to sort of purge that is to shine a light on it. And that means opening up to the people that you care about. If you've got, you know, almost like a quasi sponsor, like if there's somebody on the boat that every time you feel like you're going to get high, you reach out to that one person, let them know what's going on. Because honestly, I had this conversation with a couple of people once the light bulb did the old epiphany thing. I started to realize that this is exactly what's happening to me. And as I started to share it, I found myself a little bit more calm. I still got really angry about 15, 20 minutes ago when I couldn't find my phone, because I like keeping the phone here. I've got screens set up everywhere, but the phone, every once in a while, somebody will shoot me a text. Hey, you missed a really good comment, anything like that. I could not find the phone. And right as I was getting ready to explode, I thought, man, it's got nothing to do with the phone. It's got nothing to do with the phone. I'm going to find the phone before I get on the damn show. There's no reason whatsoever for me to lose it, because number one, it sure as hell isn't going to help me find the phone. And more importantly, the people who are going to be near me haven't done anything to deserve watching that. I remember telling the story on the boat when we went over. I remember the deck I built for that old guy. I helped him build a deck. We went to dinner at his house, and they knocked a glass off the table. His wife did, and he raged at her. I told the story here. It was so out of proportion. You would have thought that, as opposed to a glass hitting the ground, maybe she had an affair. Like it was that kind of anger. And I remember looking at I had my nephew with me that day, and I was looking at him, and it was just, he jumped up to start picking up the glass. Like everybody started to rally to try to make this go away. And I don't want to be that cat, right? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that, you're in a restaurant and you're like, oh, did you hear that guy at the table over there? Good Lord, man, get a fork, right? Whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, for real, because that's about the point that it gets to.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And listen, I'm going to put one out right now to everybody in the group, because we have a call in, right? You can call into this to this show. And
by the way, Aaron's here, by the way, so you know.
Aaron is here.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Well, you know what? I'll put out my admonition after we talk to Aaron, since he's right here. Aaron, what's going on?
Yeah, go ahead and unmute Aaron if you would, please.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, buddy.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. So I just want to start off by saying thanks for having me on the other night. I never got a chance to thank you guys. But
oh, that was a good call.
Yeah, but starting in with what you were talking about earlier, and first sort of negative thoughts and forgetfulness. I know I've said this before, but I'm probably younger than a lot of the audience here. And I've definitely struggled with these horrible negative thoughts and things, thought about murder and other things. And it happens. I mean, maybe that is just me, but I mean, those negative thoughts, they absolutely affect everyone. As far as forgetfulness goes, maybe you might just be being a little tough on yourself. I'm not in your shoes, so I don't know, but I'm in my mid-20s, and I know I have a tray for my keys and a tray for my wallet, all this stuff. And if it's not in that tray in the morning, I do not know where they are. And but part of that's my brain. I'm very mathematical and logical oriented. And sort of going into the numbers, I'm not subscribed to too many people on YouTube, but I was going through my subscriptions earlier and looking at videos and deciding what I wanted to watch, and I jump between stuff all the time.
Uh-huh.
but I noticed something on one of your videos, the one from yesterday, the fentanyl one,
Right.
and, and I was going to say at one point you had, because I remember numbers very well. That's the one thing I can do well. But at
Uh-huh.
one point you had 442 views on it. I clicked on a video, clicked out of it 30 seconds later, and then you had 432 views, is what YouTube was saying. And then clicked out of it, click reloaded the page shortly later, and then you're up to 443.
Uh-huh.
And I think you're now at that point where you're nearly being, I don't know,
No,
banned or
it's
shadow banned or
this is
something like
so
this.
funny. Honestly, this is so funny. What I was about to say, I swear to you people, what I was about to say was, and I didn't want to put something out that would just be a dead giveaway, but I was going to say, anybody notice anything strange going on the boat? Um, as far as like inside baseball goes, I don't get obsessed with analytics, but the first show of the week, we always like to have an idea of how many people saw it because it sort of sets the tone for a week, and we can look and see when people bailed off and what I was talking about at that time because there was a little bit of a political leaning in there at one point or another. But when I went to do that, and my memory's not what his is, but the number had dropped when I came back out. I was like, and I question myself on everything. You say, are you maybe you're being hard on yourself? It's also a self-fulfilling thing, right? So, once you start to think that that's happening, you really start to obsess about things. And I mean, some of them are really, I haven't told you guys scarier ones, but there's some scary ones, things that just really didn't make sense. But I think I could probably get a lot more organized. There's probably some truth to that, but I am so glad that you said this because I just wanted somebody to say, no, you're not crazy. It's been doing it all day. And the funny thing is there is one place that has nothing to do with the big red button, right? And it's sort of like a program that you can track stuff with. And that thing doesn't change. So I've been going back and forth and I was even showing it to some people like, hey, check this out. Because we're at 560. And on the other side, we haven't broken 5. So no, it's out there. I think maybe,
It's
when
a
you talk
common.
about talk about the big red button.
Go ahead. No,
Yeah,
uh,
the beast from the east and fentanyl and subject matter too.
it's a common thing with YouTube anyway. Those numbers will 100% jump around, even if you're not being messed with. That it's a glitch in the system. Sometimes it just because what it does is, guys, when you click into a video, just to let you guys know, if you don't stay long enough, it ain't gonna give you a view. Um, so what happens is when you click in, if you click right out, or if you click in and you click like right away,
Right.
that like doesn't get counted. They want you to watch the video for a certain amount of time before they want to put it into a true analytic. So that's what happens. So if people are like, and I ain't saying that's what's happening here, because other stuff
Right.
does happen. But what I'm saying is that when you click into a video, there's something called a click-through rate, and that's you can look at that, and that stays pretty consistent. But if you get, say, you get 50 people that click all at once,
Uh-huh.
and then YouTube's going to go ahead and give you those views right away, but say only 30 of them stick around for any length of time at all, so it pulls it back off. If that makes any sense to people.
No, yeah, I can see what you're saying. I absolutely can see what you're saying. It's well, and I'm not. I promise you, I'm not obsessing about the numbers because I don't care. I mean,
Right?
it's
No,
nice to
no,
it's
yeah,
nice to
right,
track, but I just don't want to think I'm going
right,
cuckoo. And with
exactly.
everything else going on in my life, Aaron, I really appreciate you paying a closer attention than I did.
Of
Um, yeah, because that's that really was
But
playing with
you're
my
not
head.
crazy, Tommy, and that's why that was kind of my point. The
Yeah.
numbers are definitely moving, is what I'm trying to
Okay.
say. That's
Well, yeah, I've never noticed it before, so maybe I just never paid attention to the numbers that closely. I don't know,
I
but
think it must have been the topic you were on because I've never seen the numbers change like that before. I know YouTube, let's say, I forget, 2.5 years ago, they hid the dislike count and they started doing other weird things with it. And I've had conservative, I watch both sides of the spectrum, but I've seen it with conservative channels that I followed where I've looked up the name of the channel who maybe has 3 or 5 million subscribers and I couldn't find their content when I searched my phone and I go on
crazy,
my
right?
laptop and I could find it. And I've ran websites before, and you can sort of optimize them for the different tablet, phone, the device you're on.
Right.
But I noticed that. I thought it was maybe worth saying. But then I'll probably just end with this. I was gonna say I would encourage anyone else to call in because, well, I've called in several times, and I'm not even really a drug addict. I watch you because I think you're articulate, clear, very intelligent for the most part. I'd put you up there with near a Jordan Peterson or something. I think his
No,
vocabulary is top
you all
notch.
hear that? Do you all hear that?
Awesome compliment.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna
Thank
say,
you. Yeah, that's top
close
top
to him.
show.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think his vocabulary and the way you can see him thinking through stuff is
He's a genius.
unmatched.
Yeah,
But
he's amazing.
Yeah. he is.
But yeah, I was gonna say a lot of what you say doesn't actually apply to me. I just think it's you handle everything well. Like when there's a Suboxone debate in the live chat or other things, I think you always handle it in a classy manner and
Thank you.
always pretty well thought out. But yeah, my last note would just be I'd encourage anyone who's ever thought about calling in to call in, because the first time I called in was before I ever left a comment on the page. And I don't know, it was a topic that interested me and I wanted to put my thoughts out, but I think that'll be it for now. I just wanted to thank you guys again. And
I appreciate you. I really do. Great call, man. I really appreciate you.
Yep.
It's always always fun when Aaron calls in, man.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate you, man.
Again,
For real.
articulate, well thought
Thank
out.
you.
Yep. And I'll tell you something. Normally, when he calls in, it's because what we're talking about is controversial. He's one of those cats that likes. I mean, I'm not.
No, it's
I say
true.
that with
No,
all kinds of respect, but
Yeah.
he has an opinion and he's thought about it on just about everything. And it's funny because we're going to talk about Suboxone before the end of this show too. So loneliness, 14%. It's going to knock off of your life. The next one is going to be failure, and it's really kind of fascinating to see what failure does to people. And it's probably the easiest to see it in kids. If you when they study kids, you can put 9 children in a room and give them all the exact same thing to work on, right? And to see what failure does when one child can't figure out the puzzle. There are kids that'll just shove it away from them. There are kids that are going to cry over it, and then there are kids that are going to go and look at what the other kids are doing to try to figure out, almost like a cheating kind of a thing. But we're no different, as grown adults and as people, a lot of us with drug problems and dependency issues. Failure can be devastating, and unfortunately, it's a cycle, right? Because what happens is you fail, and then you feel demoralized, and then you go through this. There's almost guilt, right? Because you know what? And then you start doing the automatic negative thoughts. Man, I knew I wasn't going to pull that off. There's no point even trying. I suck at this, right? We all do this, and it's funny because if I were to say, I went on stage, right? I went out and I spoke, and it was the worst show I ever did in my life. And I was absolutely beside myself. And, I went to my best friend and said, oh man, I wasn't good tonight. And he went, no, you aren't. You suck. I don't even know why you do this. You should not be a public speaker. You are bad at this. You would go, God, what kind of friend is that, right? But that's what we do to ourselves every single time we fail, right? Your friend would never do that to you, but we do it to ourselves, and we do it to ourselves worse. We take it to extremes that really damage us. They damage us, and that you got to break that cycle. You got to get out of the cycle of failure, demoralization, guilt. If you don't, years will go by. And with every subsequent failure, you start feeling like there's less reason to attempt. Well, that's a big freaking deal with what we do, right? Because relapse is part of what we do. So, and how many times have you seen it on the boat, people, where somebody comes in and says, you know what, I blew 7 years. I got high yesterday. I don't know why I did it, but I blew 7 years of sobriety. And really, that's what they think, right? All of that sobriety over what? 1,000 days, 1,500 days, 2,100 days flushed down the toilet because they got high once. They beat themselves, and that kind of stuff, it creates the cycle that keeps people getting high. It's really, brutal, but it's an absolute fact. Zenwen, thank you so much. You know what? Zenwen is everywhere I go. I'm telling you. Yeah. It doesn't matter where I go, which says a lot about the family.
Let me say a couple things here real quick.
Sure.
First off, everybody needs to say congratulations to Joanna. She now has a wrench. If
Ah,
everybody didn't
Joe,
know, me and Tommy talked about that after the stream last night, and she definitely
looking good in
deserves
blue,
it.
Joe.
That's right. That's right. I gave her a blue one on my channel earlier. I don't know. It's been months ago now, and she does a really good job. So, but something else I wanna point out here. When Tommy was talking earlier, it wasn't really about whether or not we were dealing with whatever red button issue we were dealing with. He was trying to explain to you guys that it's affecting him mentally, and he was trying to, get that across. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. I've seen some comments really kind of went off the side there a little bit, focusing more on like being shadow banned and saying the wrong words
Oh
and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. So I just want to make sure you guys are clear on what he was saying. He wasn't talking about any of that stuff right now.
No, and in all honesty,
It was just an example he
know,
was using.
well, yeah, what freaked me out was, this gets back to the fear that ends up causing the secondary emotion of anger. And yeah, that's really what it was about. And whatever the reason is, I'm not going to change anything anyway,
It
right?
doesn't matter,
So
does it?
you,
Yeah,
you
because
get
we
no, you
can't.
get back onto that
Yeah.
perspective thing where, and we're going to talk about this in a minute too. As you start to evaluate any of these things, you come up with that thing and you go, can I affect this?
Right.
Right. You evaluate what's going on. Is there anything that I can do to change what is happening? If the answer is yes, fantastic. If the answer is no, get rid of it, dump it, because all you're going to be doing is carrying that around like a backpack full of lead, and it's going to end up dragging you down. You're not going to get where you want to go, which is usually right to happiness, or at least some version thereof. The next one is rejection. And this, when you say rejection, the first thing that people think of is when you ask the girl to the prom, right? Or the girl didn't get asked to the prom, and you were in love with the first person you knew back in high school or college or wherever, and that was rejection. Rejection takes on so many different forms, right? If I come out here and I do a show and I'm passionate about whatever I'm talking about, I feel like I really have kind of got an angle on this, and I say, wow, check this out. And I get nothing, right? Or I get, yeah, I don't see it. That's rejection. Now, is it logical rejection? Probably not. I mean, there's 1,000 things that could be going on, right? People have things going on in their life, and they're not really paying attention tonight. They may catch it on the playback. And that's the kind of stuff you go through in your head to talk you out of the rejection, right? When you start to feel rejected, you can beat the crap out of yourself for 2 or 3 days. But all it does is the ladder that we've been climbing, you're going to go right down it, right? You're going to pop into failure, and you're going to start beating yourself up. The rejection goes into failure. And the next thing you know, you don't want to be around anybody, and loneliness starts coming in. And when you put all of these together, you can knock 20% off of your life. 20%. That's massive, people. That's massive, right? And the crazy part is, this really isn't the Rubik's Cube that we make it out to be. The problem is that none of us evaluate what's going on in our brain. If I walked up to you today, Mark, and I said, hey, how you doing? Right? You're going to go, great. Okay. Whatever. Right. Not bad. Can't complain.
Yeah, probably.
How many times does somebody actually go, how am I doing? Let me see. Honestly,
No,
I mean,
you're right.
as silly as it sounds,
Yeah,
right?
no,
We answer
right.
how we're doing 15 times a day. We will answer that question. How you doing? No, can't complain. Doing pretty good. How you doing?
That's how we greet each other about every time, isn't it, Tommy?
It is. It is. Absolutely, it is.
Tomorrow, I'm going to be like, let me see here.
Right. And again, get back to actually, journaling and doing some things that can really help. Right. Then the next one you're going to get to is going to be to ruminate. Right. This is the final stage, really, of all of the sort of the primal emotions. And it basically just means to concentrate on everything bad that's going on in your life, present and past. Like, you can sit and ruminate about all of the things you've done. It's very easy for me to sit down and start concentrating, if I let it go, about how much of my life I spent behind bars, right? Time I'm never going to get back. What could I have done if I had had that? And if I let that run wild, the damage that I will do to myself is absolutely insane. Here's the good news, right? Here's the good news. scientific studies, particularly on this primal emotion, when you start that process of exactly like, use me as an example again, I start doing the prison regret stuff. What did I do? I threw away my life. I wasn't there for 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes. That is the most current study. If you can clear your mind of that crap for 2 minutes, it's not coming back. You just have to get a thought in there. And we talk about this all the time on the boat. If you're new, don't stare at the same four walls. Let's bring in as many senses as you can. Go outside, take a deep breath, smell stuff, look around, right? All of the different senses that you bring in, you got a better chance of something catching your eye and you go, hey, is that a Doberman? Right? It doesn't matter what it is. The two thoughts aren't going to, be in the same place at the same time. I think a lot of times when I talk to people, they'll say, I was feeling really, really depressed, and I tried to do what you guys talk about. So I was trying to bring a thought in. So I was trying to think the most positive thing I could. I don't remember telling anybody that, right? That you're really fighting yourself if you want to go from the worst to the absolute best. I don't care if you think about the neighbor's lawn not being mowed, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if the one next to him mowed it. All you need is 120 seconds of something other than what you're thinking about.
You need a distraction.
It doesn't have to be, a distraction. It doesn't have to be, look at what I've done. I have figured out world hunger, and it's just, man, just clear the mind for a little bit, because it honestly doesn't much matter what the thought is. And after rumination, you're just going into ANT, right? Automatic negative thoughts are just going to continue to beat the snot out of you.
And
now,
can I say something real quick? Yeah. I would add there too that when you find something that's working for you, remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, because you may only be able to use that thought one time, but there are those things that you can think about over and over and over again that can distract you, that can be a go-to. And just kind of, make a mental note of that, or if you're having memory problems, you can actually write the stuff down like Tommy says. Put it on a Post-it note. Who cares? Eventually all of us are going to have those issues, and I have them too. Okay, but they're not like what Tommy goes through. So I can't completely understand or completely sympathize with what Tommy goes through on the whole memory thing. But I think we all know what it feels like to forget something, right? Yeah. And for him, it is something different. And what he's telling you there is that, this is something that he has to deal with, and it affects him emotionally, and he's trying to deal with that. So he's telling you guys that he's showing steps here.
It brings you down the rabbit hole, and if you let it run wild, where this ends, right? Where this ends is getting high, right? When the pain reaches a point that we don't feel like we can handle it anymore, we go back to the what we do best: make pain go away. And as addicts, we know that it's like pulling the pin on a hand grenade. Like, I can keep fighting, I can keep trying to come, or I just go get high, right? And so these are the kind of if you're aware of these things, you got a much better chance of staying sober. Now, before you get rolling onto any of this, the best piece of advice: if you find that all of a sudden you're starting to feel an emotion that you hadn't before, right? And you think, well, maybe I should go down and start really analyzing this. The first thing you should do, right, is knock off the obvious stuff, because the obvious stuff could be it, right? According to science, if you're not eating breakfast, right, for real, if you're not eating breakfast, you are fighting yourself from Jump Street.
Yep.
And it doesn't, you don't have to make a big deal about it or anything else, but it is breaking the fast, right? It's the longest period of time you're going to go in the day without eating. If you stretch that into noon, what happens is you don't have any energy, all those things, and it just starts a bad process, right? And
there's a reason a diabetic has issues, guys. So diabetic coma, it's blood sugar issues. So if you don't have the proper amount there, you're going to have issues. And that's why breakfast, like Tommy said, you're breaking a fast. Breakfast. Okay. That's what you're doing. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. You're absolutely right. If these are the kind of things that because one of the things that it really jumps out is sometimes these things can be serious and they can be medical as opposed to just between the ears. This can be something that is brought on by a whole host of different things that can be going wrong in the body. So if there's a brand new emotion and you can't seem to shake it, and it's there every day, and you go through stuff like sleep and eating are huge, right? Those are two things that are massive if you're trying to fight any kind of depression. Um, Getting enough sleep and eating right. But, and if you think I'm crazy, bust out 3 meals a day, right? Bust out 3 meals a day and do it for a week and see what happens. And, I get people that call all the time. We get people that email all the time. This is always the first advice because it's the easiest advice. And usually that is the problem. People, when we were in the life, we developed a whole host of habits that suck, right? I mean, think about it. When you're on drugs, I don't know how you people lived, but when I was on drugs, I very often fell asleep wearing whatever I was wearing that day, and very often woke up the same way, right? Fall asleep in a pair of jeans laying on the bed, get up, not touch that bed, right? And I might get up at noon, I might get up at 3. There was no, when the dope sick kicked in enough, I was going to wake up, right? Exactly. Because I needed the next one. But there was no rhyme or reason to any of this. And these were some of the habits that I really kind of had to work on when I first got sober, because we dragged that crap with us into this brand new creation. Like, you're becoming something, I am a brand new creation. I'm not doing this stuff anymore. I'm going to be this and that. And I'm going to sleep till 11 every day. I'm not going to eat breakfast. I'm going to stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning watching Spank Trivision or whatever else is on. Right? This is the kind of stuff that is really nuts and bolts. Before you start going and looking at all of these things that are very cerebral, knock out the stuff that absolutely could be very easy, right? Like the physical parts of it. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would say this too, guys. That I know it sounds kind of basic just to put the food thing here, but think back to your addiction. Which would you have rather have done if you had a choice? Your drug or a meal? What are you gonna do? You're gonna do the drug. I remember going days and not eating, just as long as I had my it ain't because I couldn't have eaten. It's just because I'd rather have been doing what I was doing. I knew that if I took those pills on an empty stomach, it was going to hit me harder. I knew that.
Right.
So I just would not eat. And that's just what happened. But I want people to understand that, because it is a very basic thing that gets overlooked so easily.
Well, and if you read the comments, the number of people who just said, "Yeah, I eat once a day."
Yeah.
This really is stuff that we drag from past lifestyles. And I did the same thing. And I used to go, and I'm fine on 1 meal a day. And when I was doing heroin, there were times that I ate 3 times a week. I would do a big steak, but I would do it 3 times a week. My metabolism had slowed down to that of a turtle. I hardly ever ate, and I put weight on because it was just literally slowing down every function in my body. Yep. But if you really want to live the best life, the greatest litmus test, Q just beat this into me. The greatest litmus test is this: did I do it when I was wasted? Okay, then I'm probably not going to do it now. Did I not do it when I was using? Well, then I'm probably going to do it now, right? And the smallest things, people, make the biggest difference. If you're sitting around in a room and you're going, "Man, I'm just depressed and everything is killing me," look around the room. Is it trashed? Honestly, is it trashed? You got clothing stacked up in the corner. You've got, if your life is in disarray, it's exactly what it's going to do to inside your brain. I promise you. You get up and take 5 minutes, right? Even if you're depressed and you're like, "I can't get out of bed," take 5 minutes. You don't have to knock out the whole room, but do something, right? Fold a few things. Take some stuff down to the hamper. You got 9 glasses in there, bring them down to the sink, because that's the kind of thing that brings success, right? I'm doing something. I'm actually moving forward and trying to do something. I beat the whole make the bed thing. I beat the hell out of it. And I always will beat the hell out of it. When that becomes a habit, chances are you're waking up at the same time. Chances are you're probably eating. And, people say, I don't eat breakfast because I'm not hungry in the morning. What does that got to do with anything? I mean, honestly, who cares if you're hungry, right? Yeah. Think about it like gasoline, right? What you're doing is running on empty. And that, you say, "Well, it doesn't bother me, right? Stay out of my room, lifeboat."
Rhonda was just asking what was Spank Vision.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're going to skip
Devin's son. What gets wetter the more it dries?
Oh God.
A towel. Well done,
All right.
7-7.
He's here, by the way. You want to let him in, or you want to keep?
You know what? We'll finish up with him because I got only a couple of more things to. Okay, so believe it or not, people, we talk about buprenorphine a lot, right? And it usually causes a big fight. That's Suboxone, and it's used very often for medical assisted treatment. And as it turns out, it looks like one of the reasons that this thing is as successful as it is, and it's to date pretty much the most effective thing that they have for trying to get with the cessation of of opiates. They're now doing studies, and they are in phase 3 clinical studies of buprenorphine for treating depression. And I've said this 4 or 5 times. This is not the first time I've said this on the show. It is, however, the first time I went and checked to see exactly how far through this they are. Some of these are now in the US because they were getting a whole bunch of blowback. So a lot of this stuff they were doing in Israel. Now they're doing, double blinds with placebos, right? And a second, drug other than bupe. And they're really having amazing results, right? The number of people out there right now fighting to try to make it so that a pill will make you perfect, right? I have nothing against medication. If someone is depressed and there is a pill out there that can make that work, God bless that pill and the person that's taking it, right? But they're working so hard on a happy pill, and I'm not being funny, right? There is if you got into any of this or you read any of this, you may have heard of Glix 13, right? Glix 13 ended up with another name. It was raspintanol, I think like it.
Something
Glix
like
13.
Yeah.
You look up Glix 13, I promise you it's going to get to you. Raspintanol or something like that. But the problem is it got all the way to the finish line. It was non-addicting. You put it into a syringe and they take 1 shot a month, and it was showing amazing, in terms of it had so much promise to help people. And they were testing on people who no longer wanted to be on the planet, right? They were considering a word that we're not going to say here on the air, but, and they were doing really, really well. How long have you two been together?
I think you talking about me.
Oh, a hot minute.
All right.
About a year and some change.
Yeah, almost 2 years. Well, no,
Yeah.
a little over. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, a year and
August,
a couple of months,
something like that. Yeah,
August. Yep.
Yep.
So the and one last thing, people, and then we're going to bring in 7th. The last time I also did a lot of talk about psychedelics, right? And them using psychedelics to try to treat different types of depression and other diseases that really are resistant to everything else. And I said, I promise you it's just a matter of time before you start to see these in other places. While doing my research, there is a ketamine clinic in my hometown right now. And I assure you, the last time I looked, there wasn't. So they give you the opportunity for this kind of treatment there, or you can do it at your house. I was going and reading through the brochures and all of the different things that they say they can cure or treat with ketamine intravenously. Which, tell you what, people, the horizons, right? The landscape for what they're doing to try to help people who are having problems. It's amazing. Whether you agree with any of it or not, it's just good to know that they're stepping it up. Because for the longest time, if you told somebody, well, what do you do? I'm a psychologist. Oh, not a real doctor, right? The real doctors, the ones who work on bones or whatever, bodies. The most complex part of our body, right, sits between our ears. And it's the part that we don't do any kind of hygiene on, right? A little mental hygiene would go a long way. Pay attention to what's going on in your head and then reach out to somebody and tell them, right? Hopefully about 400 of you, I just told that it's probably fear that I'm working on as opposed to anger. Now we're going to see how well that helps, right? We're going to see if that works. 7th. What's going on, brother?
Let me say hi here to what's his name, Grand Madness. Yeah, I think we've been together. What, Tommy? About 2 years? About a year and a half, I guess.
We got together end of July of 21.
I, I guess first time we've seen him in here, isn't it? Or she? Yeah, he or she? Just curious. You don't have to answer if you don't.
It's one or t'other.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But yeah. I want to show something real quick though, if I could. I'm gonna put myself on screen for a minute.
Uh-huh.
If you could. I'm just gonna do this real quick, and then we'll get. I get a lot of questions about this. This is why I'm showing it. That's Narcan.
Nice.
Okay. Actually, there's two of them. Okay. That's how they come now. They're coming in boxes of two. They don't just come with one shot anymore. It's not a shot either. These are nasal dispensers. Okay. You would have a hard time finding a needle for these now.
Yeah, they're doing away with that.
Yeah.
Because they want everybody to be able to administer it. They don't want it to ever
Right.
have somebody mess it up. You just stick this up someone's nose. It's a much, much easier method.
Right.
You know, before we say one other word on here, Kelly Smith is said she's in kidney failure. I think I don't know. He or she is in kidney failure, congestive heart failure. The liver's not functioning. That's thoughts and prayers, people. Please.
Yeah,
Kelly Smith. That's
that
big time.
deserves
And you
to
know what?
stop,
We've done some amazing things, whether you believe in anything, right? We've seen some really amazing stuff happen when everybody on the boat pulls and prays and sends positive energy, or whatever you feel is what you do. Meditate on it, whatever. But
Please do that
this
for
would be
her.
a really good cause. So let's do that, everybody.
Yep.
Seventh son, have you unmuted yourself yet?
Yes, he's there. Should be. Steve,
You
you in there, bud?
I think so.
You're kind of
Yeah,
you're
now you're coming through.
You're really low. Hello?
Oh, can you hear me? No?
I can't turn you up anymore, bud. You're up all the way on my end.
And you sound like you're in the bottom of a tin can.
Can you hear me just enough without throwing out my question?
There you
Go
go.
ahead.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm still sober, but you had mentioned there might be some medical help to prevent my struggles with alcohol.
Absolutely. They're absolutely, that's probably the field that they're making the most strides in right now would be the treatment of alcohol use disorder. The substance is naltrexone, right, is the name of the substance. And they have been having ridiculous success with it. It was not intended for that purpose. What my bobbleheaded partner just held up in a nasal spray, the majority of naltrexone is exactly that. And I know it doesn't make any sense because this was never designed for that. But what happened is there are so many addicts who have, they're poly addicted. There's more than one substance. And very often you got people that abused alcohol badly and did it with opiates. You put a few beers or anything else on a pill and you could stretch it out. So that was very, very common. And what they found was that when they started treating these people with naltrexone, that the drinking went away and quick. It really is. They've been having a lot of success with it. And seventh, I will reach out to you and tell you some of the ways that you can get that where you're at, or start at least talking to a doctor about it, because it's they say it just really takes away the craving. And there's nothing that it doesn't get you high. It doesn't do anything like that. But it's certainly better than Antabuse or any of the sort of the old stuff that people used to take. This is the next generation of drugs for this. So that's a good one, bro. It really is. And I'll get you all that information. I promise.
Cool.
Unfortunately, we can't even hear a joke.
Yeah, he's really his audio is just not there.
No, it really isn't.
Yeah. So, Steve,
well,
we'll see you next show, buddy. Call back in next show, and we'll get you back on here. Okay, man. Thanks for calling, man. Appreciate you. But yeah, so yeah, guys, I think it was a really good show tonight, Tommy. I think you went over some really key things that could help. Hey, there's Blue. What's up, Blue?
Hey, Blue.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
See the survival. Good to see you too, SG. Yeah, showing up just in time for. Yeah, we know why you're here. It's got nothing to, it's got nothing to do with me. This is the squirrel show. That's all right.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it.
Yeah, you really
You know
do.
what I'm saying?
You really do.
But yeah,
People,
so go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
thank you so much, crew. You know, it's we're growing, and we're growing at a clip that probably far exceeds what we thought was going to happen. With a lot of help from a lot of great people, like Marfugel is really, the Marfugel fam has helped us just dramatically, and we never want to lose sight of the fact that we're the two luckiest guys on the big red button, right?
Sure, man. For
Absolutely,
sure.
we are. You know, we get to do this to help us stay sober, and we get to hang out with a lot of really great people, and we got the best seats in the house.
It's humbling. I can tell you
SG
that.
says, "I'm here for the bots."
You know what she said in there, Tommy, and we got a couple minutes here, so I'll go ahead and say it real quick. When we were talking about, sphincter vision or whatever the heck was being said, she says, well, we're going to be getting the porn bots in here in a minute. And I think it wasn't 60 seconds later they hit the chat. I was like, whoa, she called that one.
Yeah, that is really funny. Now, it says a lot about who you people are. I said Spectravision.
I know what you said.
I said Spectravision, and you guys just heard that because...
Hey. That's an addiction too, guys. Come on now.
Thing on.
That's awesome.
You know what? We would love to have Adam as a guest. That would be absolutely amazing. We would love that.
Yes.
Much love, Captain Tommy and Mark and the boat. We love you. Thank you. Buddha Davis, we love you too, bud. Absolutely.
Yes.
You know what? All of you. Really, all of you. This is it just gets better every day. It really does. And you guys are such a huge part of my sobriety. Thank you. Swiss Vapor. I'm here to help and get help.
Yep.
You know what?
Let me say this too real quick, man. You don't have to have gone through an addiction to help somebody with addiction. Okay? You don't. Does it help? Yes, it helps to understand and be able to sympathize. But there are very intelligent people out there that can empathize and have very good insight to what's going on. Oftentimes, your family around you that have never been addicted can help you the most because they see you. So don't ever forget that, guys. I know that there's people here that have never had an addiction, right? Or a big one like we went through, but don't discount what they say.
No, absolutely not. The connection is the opposite of addiction, right? It's not sobriety. It is connection. And the more points of connection you have, oh, wow, what a beautiful thing to say. I'm alive today because of this boat. You hear that, crew? That's you guys.
Yep.
For real. That is you. The points of connection on here, I promise you that it's not that people come here and get connected to me and my partner. They come here and they get connected to a family of people, and you guys literally are saving lives. I hope that sinks in because that's the coolest thing in the world. And you know what it does? It makes really cool things happen in your brain with chemicals. I mean, just flying for real.
Yes, it does.
Science has proven that nothing will crank out more fun stuff in the brain than service to others. That is just a stone cold fact.
It's such a cool thing, and ain't that just perpetuating what we should be doing?
Absolutely.
Honestly, it really is. It's just natural. Yeah. It should, and it's amazing that it took all of us that long to kind of figure that out. But we had something that was giving it to us really, really quick in a really, really crazy way, but we didn't realize it was going to be just all kinds of nasty about a week or two in. So anyway, that's why. And I think that's a lot of people don't think of it being a natural thing, and it is a natural thing for us to want to have some dopamine in our brain.
No question.
That's what makes us feel happy.
Absolutely no question. Hey, Braver Leach, thank you so much. It's really a cool thing to say. People, before we go, prayers for Mark as well. Not the bobble-headed Mark, the other Mark.
Mark Webb,
I have a puppy in a box, not a cat in a basket.
Yeah, Major just got a puppy.
What's the name of the puppy? You can't just come here and tell us you got a puppy, right?
Exactly. And don't forget, guys.
That's just awful.
Prayers for Kelly too, please.
Yes,
guys.
Absolutely.
We take care of our own and try to take care as much as we can. But
Thanks for having me. No, man, thanks for being here. You know what I mean? Thanks for being here. We're honored, to have each and every one of you here. We know we're lucky, right? All right, people, we will be back tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel. It'll be me, Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
Yeah, how's that? Put that with your dog in a box. Hey, that's a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.